So in today's training, we're going to be talking about the gold standard of all core strengthening exercises. So you've probably been told, the plank. So I'm going to share my opinion on it, whether I think it's a beneficial exercise or whether I think it's potentially harmful. And I guess like just a little story to sort of highlight the harmful effects of it is a number of years ago when my son was around 10 at his old jiu-jitsu club, martial arts club, they used to, I always used to cringe as a personal trainer and knowing technique when the coach would say, all right, all kids, we're going to do the plank challenge. So they would get all the kids lined up on the mat and they would hold a plank, and the winner, of course, was the person that could hold the plank for the longest amount of time. Now, there was no, there was no thought given towards the technique of how the plank was held. It was just who could hold it the longest. And my son's like super stubborn, very competitive and determined. So he would quite often win, and he would hold it for like eight minutes or longer sometimes. But I'd be watching and I'd be cringing because I'd be looking at the positioning of his back and he'd be holding it in terrible posture. And that's the thing with a plank. If it's not held in perfect postural alignment, it's not going to be doing you benefit. It's actually going to be doing you harm. So I'm definitely not against the plank, and I think the plank is a fantastic exercise, but the caveat is that you have to do it with perfect technique. And if it's not done with perfect technique, then it's a harmful exercise. So I just want to show you the plank and just a couple of common mistakes. The two biggest, most common mistakes are this. So when the plank's done, it's a natural human reaction. I'm just going to do it from my knees at the moment while I'm talking, but it's a natural reaction to look up. We all want to look around to see what's going on. But if you see what's happening at the back of my neck there, you can see that I have a very sharp curve at the back of the neck. And that's going to be strengthening my neck muscles in a short and tightened range. So that's going to put a lot of force into the discs between each of the vertebral bones. And it's also going to be reinforcing bad posture in my neck. And that bad posture it has crisscross patterns into the rest of the body. So that's probably the first one, and it can lead to like tension headaches and all sorts of other problems. The second is your lower back posture. So, and for that matter, your lower back, which will also affect your upper back. And really it's coming from the pelvis. So when we're doing the plank, if our pelvis is tilted too far forward, so if you think of your pelvis like a jug of water and you're pouring the water out of the front of the jug, what's going to happen is we're going to have a lot of force going through that lower back area. So if you're doing the exercise to strengthen your lower back, you're actually putting a lot of shearing force into the vertebral discs, into the discs between the vertebra in that lower back. So it's actually not going to help to strengthen that area of the body. So what we want to do is we want to have a neutral pelvis, okay? And that's going to help to line up the rest of our spine. So when we're here, if our bum's stuck up in our lower back's arch, we need to tuck that pelvis under. Often bending the knees just with a little micro bend can help that. Make sure the neck's long so that from our head all the way to our tailbone, our spine is a nice neutral alignment. So the key consideration is that we have that spine in a straight line, but the spine's not exactly straight. It does have natural curves. So there's a little bit of a lordotic curve in the lower back, kyphotic curve in the upper back, lordotic curve in the neck, right? So it's all, if you think about, visualize having it pretty straight, but just some natural curves, That's where we want to hold it. And when we're holding it in that alignment, then and only then is the plank exercise a highly effective exercise for strengthening the core, supporting your back, and developing good posture. When we don't have it precisely in that positioning, then unfortunately it's not a good exercise. So if you can't do it supervised or you don't have the knowledge yourself, I probably wouldn't recommend to do the plank. Now, with the positioning, there's a number of ways that you can make it harder or easier. If you find it too hard to keep the spine pretty straight and in its natural curves, you can elevate the elbows, have them up on a chair or a table. That will make it easier to hold that position. So my final piece of advice for the plank is that make sure when you're holding the plank position, you're not tightening your abs, like flexing like you're doing a crunch. We're drawing the navel in towards our spine and holding that pelvis in a stable position. But also we want to be thinking that it's not an exercise where you want to see the longest period of time that you can possibly hold it for. So I normally have like a cap at 1 minute for clients. So I don't get clients to do it for longer than 1 minute. And if they can do it comfortably for a minute, then they're ready to go to a more advanced version of the plank to challenge them more. Once we cap it at a minute, we can really focus on getting the technique, the alignment perfect, lock that in place. Whereas if we start to just do it with an open-ended time limit and you can hold it for minutes at a time, generally that's where I find that people will lose that alignment.